The real identity of the Master of Masters is one of the, if not the biggest mystery in Kingdom Hearts. Many people have tried to put theories forward in order to find out the real identity of this mysterious man. However, there is one scene in the series which at first glance doesn't really say much, but when you compare the scenes between the Japanese and the Western releases, there is one stark difference, possibly done on accident, that can be quite startling and possibly shine light into what the real identity of the Master of Masters is. I will be diving into what this difference is and what it could mean for the series. Now, what is this difference that I'm talking about? It is during this scene in Dark Road, where young Xehanort is talking to the Master of Masters, based on the scene from Remind. As you might recall, the scene in Remind where the Master of Masters says his name is muted.
My name is...
In the Dark Road version of the scene, the mute is represented by lines, which is basically them censoring the word in text form. At first glance, it just seems like a random censor with a random amount of empty lines to blur out the name. However, in the Japanese version, there is a different set of lines for some odd reason. The Western version has 3 empty lines, while the Japanese has 2. It seems that there was a purposeful censoring of his name that differs from each version, indicating that in English, his name has 3 letters, while in Japanese, it could have 2. Bear in mind that the Japanese alphabets are quite different and can have multiple sounds in one letter as opposed to Roman alphabets. It is then believed that of all the names that exist which relates to Kingdom Hearts, and yet is only 3 letters long in English and 2 letters long in Hiragana, the one possible name that stands out like a sore thumb is the name Sol, which in Japanese is pronounced Soru. The name Sol has been theorized before in different ways, mostly regarding his seemingly possible relation to light. However, with these 2 different scenes in mind, it really does seem like a very important find, considering that we're talking about a difference in the amount of letters between each region, when it could have just stayed the same. They purposefully changed the amount of empty space when saying his name. There are also some other factors that has led me to believe that his name is Sol, other than the very suspicious empty lines. Firstly, Sol essentially means sun. It is related to Latin, which certainly fits Nomura's naming conventions. The sun relates to light, and when he said his name to young Xehanort in Remind, there was a visible light that muted the name and blinded the screen with said light. Recall earlier that the Master of Masters said, "The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear," followed by the scene in which he says his name, or shows it rather. The idea of him being Sol would be in contrast to the darknesses that the Master of Masters is against, due to his connection with light. The idea of him being the sun and seeking out Kingdom Hearts, a moon, would also be connective to him. This is not a familiar name per se, in the sense that it's not a name we have heard before. This could very well explain an interview that the voice actor of young Xehanort, Ben Diskin, had with the YouTuber HMK.
Well, there's like a whole bunch of extra lines for the DLC indicating that he met the Master of Masters and knows what his name is and stuff like that. And
So
I'm
what's
just
his name, Ben?
I can't tell you, but I actually do know.
You're lying!
I'm not lying. Yeah, so no, I do know what his name is. But not that, like, honestly, even if I told you, you wouldn't be like, oh, this must be, it's not
Right,
like it's
okay.
going to lead into any shocking
Yeah, you know,
revelations.
I want to assume that it might even be a placeholder name or something.
That's
No,
possible.
we're not having this conversation. Continue.
Okay.
In this clip, Ben Diskin claims to have actually heard the name that the Master of Masters was saying, but that the name wasn't something that would surprise us in any way. It seems that the name isn't one that's immediately recognizable to us, so no Demyx or whatever. But if the name he heard was Sol, then this interview would make a lot of sense. And of course, we cannot ignore the fact that the Japanese pronunciation of Sol is Soru, which sounds, well, a lot like Sora. Not to say that he is Sora, but that a thematic link can be made here. One that I feel is something that Nomura would possibly go for. Now, remember, this is all technically still a theory, but I and many others within the community believe that this is one of the most likely theories that we currently have, based on the observational evidence and themes we have seen for the Master of Masters name. Translation differences along with the other smaller evidence makes me truly think that his name could be Sol, or rather Soru, and that this difference in empty lines wasn't supposed to be shown to us. This theory, or rather I guess this finding about the differences in empty spaces between the name of the Master of Masters in the Dark Road scene between the Western and the Japanese version is, well, relatively obscure. Outside of the Kingdom Hearts Discord, I haven't really seen anyone talk about it. So I hope this video will reach the hearts of many others so that more people become aware of this theory and this finding. By the way, I just want to welcome you to my first video here on this channel. I plan to cover topics related to Kingdom Hearts' more unknown theories, obscure facts, and unknown trivia. I also talk about common myths and misconceptions regarding the series, as well as other forms of analytical coverage regarding to KH. If you're interested in this project, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching. I hope you stick around to this channel as more videos like this will be uploaded very soon. May your heart be your guiding key.